Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Art Whisper 88. I have here some of my new metallic Sharpie pens, and I'm going to make some marks for a first layer. It's a bunch of curved lines from left to right. And this will provide some texture for a first layer. Nice thing about these pens is the more you use them, the more the ink comes out. Okay, this is copper. I'm going to try silver. Now I'm intending to use a very dark first layer of acrylic paint. Very dark blue, actually indigo to be exact. And I'm hoping that these metallic lines are going to provide some contrast. I'm just going to continue making these curved lines, kind of like a mesh. And I think it's the slight curve that gives the line some movement as opposed to a plain straight line. Okay, that's quite a few lines. And now I will apply the first layer, which is, this is Lucas Indigo. This is a request, this color request made by a friend of mine named Chris Russ, a very avid viewer and commenter. And Chris, this is for you. I promise to use indigo. So here you are. This is almost like Prussian blue. It's different from phthalo blue, which is greenish. Or you could call this a navy blue. Because it has purple undertones on it. Okay. Now this time I'm going to refrain from doing my scribbles because I already did the intricate pattern of metallic lines. So as usual, here is my sheet of Stonehenge paper. And hopefully this layer of indigo will pick up the metallic paint. That is the first layer. So as usual, I will leave the paper on for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, let's see what we got here. This is a very deep color. Very beautiful. This is really grabbing onto the plate like tape. It's very nice transfer though. The metallic markers are showing up very nicely. They're not super bright, but you can still tell they are metallic against the dark background. Okay, I think this is pretty cool for a first layer. Let me show you a close-up. And I think the transfer is very successful. So that's it for the first layer of indigo. I'm going to air dry this and figure out the next few layers. I intend to use different shades of blue, and there'll be phthalo blue and possibly Arctic as the lightest color. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, here's my next step. I have here a bunch of plastic sheets here. Now, this was a package sent to me, so I cut it up into strips, and I thought I would use them as stencils or masks, whichever you want to call them. And I'm going to arrange these like so, taking advantage of the sticky nature of the gel plate. Now, whatever surface I decide to cover, that is what will show up as indigo on the print. Okay, I think these pieces will stay put because the plate is very sticky. Okay, so that is the layout of the second layer, and I'm going to decide if I'm going to use a mix of indigo and white or a layer of phthalo blue. So I will be back in a few minutes. Okay, back from a short break. Now, since these are very thin layers of plastic, I have to kind of press them down. I'm using another sheet of clear plastic to make sure that the edges are not curling up. You see, this would not happen if I'm using acetate or the reusable stencils, which are made of thicker plastic, but I wanted to vary the shape. So, okay. I decided I want to use this Mortem Violet on the top by Amsterdam, and then a little of the Ultramarine Violet on the bottom. And I made a mix of phthalo blue and white. Now I tried to mix white with this indigo, and I found it too grayish, was kind of dull. So I'm just going to leave the indigo as a background. So I will start with instead of a brayer, I'll be using a brush. Okay. And then just a little bit of purple on the top. And that's why I have my smaller brayer. And I'm just rolling the brayer on to flatten out the high parts of the paint, because they will blot if I'm not careful. Then as a final layer, I have this purple on the bottom. Now this is just improvised. I'm using found material. It's not ideal, but I have it, so I'm just making a go of it, and I'll see what the result will be. Okay. These are somewhat easier to remove because they're already curling up. Now another thing about these this packaging material, the edges are not as sharp as the other reusable stencils, but it's, you know, like I said, it's an experiment. The edges are a little more raggedy. Just making sure my fingers are clean before I grab my paper. So, next step, to refresh your memory, here is the indigo background with the metallic lines. And I do hope that the registration is good. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes, and let's see what we got here. I think it's a nice contrast. Okay, I tore the paper. So it's still a little dark, but it's a start. But for a second layer, so this gets air dried, and I will proceed to the next step. I'm going to see if I can retrieve this. As usual, I will use raw sienna, because this raw sienna is very good in retrieving a ghost print. And what's left of my Lucas white. This is really the last drop. Okay. I'm really going to town with the scribbles this time. Okay, this is a different paper. This is Somerset. I can tell that it's a little rougher. So the effect might be a little different. This is probably one of the leftovers from my pile of paper. Sometimes they get mixed around. Okay, let's see what we got. I think it's a decent transfer for a ghost print. Okay, pretty cool, huh? Now I noticed this, since this is Somerset, it has a different feel. It's softer and it's a little thicker than Stonehenge. And I like the feel of this a lot. And that's why I've been using this for a while. So you get to learn the different behaviors of paper when you start using them. You can tell just by feeling the paper, the surface of the paper. It will tell you how it's going to behave. So anyways, I'm happy with this ghost print. And I'm going to air dry this like the other one. Okay, back from a short break, and I want to show you a little accident. I got a tear here. That's from pulling the paper too quickly. And since this is Stonehenge, which is a little bit thinner than what I'm used to, it's a bit fragile compared to Somerset. So I'm going to show you how I do some damage control. To flip this over, and I'm going to get a tiny piece of paper. I'm not going to use any kind of adhesive because that's going to mess up the paper later. Because any kind of tape that has gum in it, it's going to discolor in a few years, and I want to avoid that. So instead, I will just use what I have. I'll just use the copy paper that I use for collage and make a tiny piece and patch it like so. Using my trusty Mod Podge. I figured, if it works as a collage glue in the front, it should work nicely in the back as well. Without compromising the integrity of the paper. There. Okay. That should take care of the rip, and once that's dry it will be very strong because it has a backing from behind. So that is my damage control. Now I will flip this over, and I find this print very dark because the indigo is a very dark background. So I'm going to have to introduce brighter colors and more interesting shapes, because these, the second layer, the shapes are not very interesting. The edges are not very clean, and I prefer a very hard edge, clean edge. That's just my taste. So I'm going to introduce some cleaner cut shapes and see what happens. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, back from a short break. I was able to go through my reusable stencil stash, and I assembled them on the plate. Now you may not be able to see some of them because they are clear, but these are very obvious, these blue ones and then these yellow ones. So I will assign this copper, which is my favorite, for the middle. And since it's my favorite, it's almost gone. So that's copper for the middle. And this is Blick bronze for the top. Okay. And then for the bottom, I'm going to use this Amsterdam pewter, which is a little brighter. Hopefully this will lighten up the print because the background is really dark. So I'm going to start from the bottom. And this is going on pretty heavy because I want it to be opaque. Okay. Now the advantage of having these reusable stencils made of a thicker plastic is that they hold up to washing and pulling, because sometimes the plate is so sticky that it fights me. It refuses to come off, and when you force it, it will tear. So that's why it's good to have the material a bit stronger to withstand this wear and tear. Okay, I think I have all the stencils taken out. And hopefully my little patch has dried now. And also I placed a piece of tape here along the top of my registration bar so the paper doesn't keep getting caught. Okay, I laid the paint on very heavily, so I'm not going to leave this on too long. I don't want to risk another tear. This is a misregister, but the texture is fantastic. Check this out. It really wakes up the print because the background is extremely dark. So pretty cool. So this gets air dried, and maybe I will try to save this. I'll see how it looks on this piece. Okay, let's see what we got. It's interesting how this lines up. It didn't with the other one, but I'm very happy with this. Every time the layers line up, I'm very happy. Very cool. Here's a close-up. But usually the ghost prints come through for me. They kind of saved the day. Here's more detail. Now the contrast is not as intense as the first one, but these are complementary colors. They're softer and they kind of go with each other. Okay, so I will wait for these two guys to dry and then make a decision when I recap. So don't go away. Okay, back from a short break. I was able to rummage through my box of scraps and I found these brightly colored pieces here. This is like a bright vermilion and some blue that I had offloaded with my brayer, and some copy paper pieces that I've cut into certain shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and start mounting them, starting with the little guys. Now this is the inside of this shape. I had cut out, it's like a letter D. Here, let me do this properly. There we go. Now it's a little tricky to position these paper pieces when they have a hole in the middle. Okay. Now these are a little easier because they're small. Okay. Here's a tall vertical piece here. So I always keep these brightly colored pieces of paper in my box because they come in handy when I need a spot of color. Lastly, this tall piece here. There we go. It's kind of like counterpoint to the horizontal lines. that I had put in earlier in this video. Okay, so that is it for, oh, there's this one more, this vertical piece here. And hopefully the tear is not going to be noticeable. Okay, that's it for monoprint collage number 1. This is the second piece, which is a ghost print. And usually the ghost print does much better because the textures tend to be more delicate. Okay. There. Just a little touch of color to fill out the composition. So let me recap. I think this is a bit dry by now. And here is a close-up with the collage elements against the indigo background. And here is the next piece. Here is a close-up. This is a much softer color combination. And I think the tangerine pieces add some lively color. Okay, I hope you like this little adventure I had with indigo paint, and I would like to thank all you viewers who have kindly subscribed and donated to my PayPal account to keep this channel afloat. I will run some credits at the end of this video, personally, to thank each and every one of you. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time.